Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a brand new 2024 Ford F-150 Raptor, and we're installing either one or two 40-inch Slim Series light bars. Alright, let's go ahead and pop the hood and see what we got going on. So the first thing we're going to do is remove this top liner. All it's held by is just regular push pins. So you just pry them with a screwdriver, grab your pin removal tool, and let's get them all out. Some are just push pins. Some of these that have a little top hat on top, you have to pry it first, get the pin, raise the pin, and then when the pin is raised, then you can just pry it out. So it's kind of like a locking mechanism. So there's a couple of these that I've seen as well. Now that we removed all the push pins, let's go ahead and lift up on this plastic trim piece and get it out the way. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and remove these 5 large push pins and 4 10mm bolts from the top. These are a little trickier, they're really in there. These are a little larger, they have a lot of grooves, so they're a little bit more difficult when removing. But it's the same practice, just get underneath the head of it and just kind of pry it up little by little until it all comes out. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab a 10mm socket and remove these 4 10mm screws. Since we're working on top of the grill, let's go ahead and disconnect all the wiring. So you actually have more than wiring. You have 2 plugs here, you have a plug here, and you have windshield washer fluid here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove, this is the harness for the active shutter system. Just squeeze the top and pull it up. That unplugs. And then following the wiring, there's also a plug here. So same thing. We're going to squeeze it and unplug it. Let's go ahead and separate by removing this white push pin inside the grill. We can also free up this harness by lifting it up. There we go, so this is completely out of the way. Next one on the list is the camera. So we're going to press on this tab and pull them apart. There it goes. And the last thing is the windshield washer. Squeeze this plastic ring and then just pulls out. So I'm going to squeeze it with one hand and just pull it out. There's another clip here that we're going to remove. And now everything is disconnected from the grill. Alright, we got everything on top. The next step is going to be removing this bottom trim piece. I'm going to remove these 2 7mm bolts from the fender flare. That's going to allow us to push the fender flare out. So after removing those 2 screws, I'm going to go ahead and pop the fender well out. Fender flare. There we go. And everything just unclips. So now that we separated the fender flare, we're going to go ahead and give it a little tuck on the side to separate the bottom trim piece from the fender. There we go. So we should do the same thing on the passenger side, so that way both of the edges are unclipped, and then unclip it towards the center. So follow me on the passenger side. We're going to take off the fender flare and unclip the edge. So unclip this, now we're going to pry this forward. Okay, and we're just going to work our way towards the center. Try to work this edge. There we go. And that's how you remove the bottom trim. So the last 2 bolts that are holding this grill together are the ones on the bottom. There's 2 bolts here. We're gonna take out the inner one. It It's a 10mm bolt. There's one. Same thing on the other side, it's the inner 10mm bolt. So now that you got all the bolts on top and the bottom off, now we can remove the grill. Now that I have disassembled the grill from the vehicle, let's go ahead and take off the bottom trim piece. It has push pins that hold two parts of the grill together. So I'm just gonna go on the bottom of it and just kind of pry them open. Alright, so the next thing I'm gonna do is remove these nuts on top. There's 4. And that's going to separate the 2 portions of the grill. And we're going to take out the 8mm screw in the middle of the grill. So the last thing we have to do is get these clips on the bottom off. You push them and prop it up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Something's locked up. There we go. There we go. The camera actually puts tension on both the sides, so there's a clip here on the bottom of the adapter. We're gonna go ahead and take it out. It's a little stubborn, so I'm gonna push it from the back end and kind of wiggle it out. There it is. And then when we take this out, we're gonna also, there's the wires clipped in. We're gonna move it sideways so that way it loosens up. Also, the windshield washer tube, we're gonna have to get it out of its groove just by unclipping it. So we also have these, we gotta take off this harness. So this is what powers the front marker lights. That's 1, and these just unclip. Before you're removing the 2 parts of the grill apart, there's also the camera wire. We gotta unclip this. And there's 2 clips here. There it is. And now we can freely disassemble the 2 parts. If you purchased one light bar, you get to decide whether you want to install it above the Ford sign or below. You do end up using the same bracket. So let me show you how you would position them. Here's a set of brackets that we're going to be using. This is the passenger side and this is the driver. And when looking at the grill, you're going to reuse these bolts that hold both of the sides of the grill together. So notice the orientation of the bracket. There's an arrow pointing up to indicate the top of the grill. There's a flat side here, and we're going to be reusing the same bolts that hold the 2 pieces of the grill together. And you can see it's shaped for that step down. If you want to install it below the Ford sign, you just pick it up and reinstall it on the bottom bolt, with the bracket orientation being the same. So let's go ahead and install a light bar on the top position. Same thing on the other side. The arrow's facing up and we have the contour bracket. There's a step down that brings us closer to the grill. First thing you want to do, you want to grab the light bar and you want to install the side mounts. These side mounts are the same for both. I'm gonna go ahead and just mount them first, and we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So notice when we're installing the side brackets onto the light bar, there's a bolt here and it's faced on the inside of the bracket. So it's very difficult to install the light bar because of the sides of the plastic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install it sideways at diagonal. So I'm going to bring it in like this, raise this up, and install it down. And now what we want to do, we want to align the bolts of the brackets on the sides of the light bar to the holes of the bracket. So I'm going to go ahead and align the bolt to the bolt hole and put a nut on the other end to secure it. We'll tighten it once we get the other side of the bracket installed as well. So we want to get this bolt into this bracket hole. So we're going to align it, and I'm going to thread on the nut on the bottom. Next step, I want to tighten these bolts. Okay, this is good. Let's go to the other side. If you purchase a single light bar kit, you're pretty much done. All you have to do is reassemble the grill back together and install it on the truck. If you purchased a dual, or if you are installing a single light bar below the Ford sign, then follow along. I will show you how to do that too. Okay, the only difference for the bottom light bar when installing is that the side brackets have to be flipped the other way. So I want to show you a comparison. On the top light bar, the thread of the bolt was facing down, now it's facing up. But the bracket, when installed on the grill, actually faces the same direction. So notice that the arrow's pointing up, just like the previous bracket, and the only thing is we're threading that bolt from the other side. So I'm going to thread it through the bracket opening, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So on the other side, I want to show you this is facing up. The brackets are facing up as well. I'm going to thread it into the bracket opening, and I'm going to put a nut. So the two light bars are pretty much a reverse image. The bracket of the light bar is facing the same way with arrows pointing up. So we ended up routing the wire on this side of the grill closer to the auxiliary switches, which is the passenger side. So I'll go ahead and route it here. And when installing the grill, it shouldn't interfere with the active shutter system. If it gets in the way and prevents it from opening and closing, you might get a check engine light since the active shutter system is going to get stuck. But if you use zip ties or just route it and sandwich it together, it should be pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and put the two halves of the grill together, and we're going to reinstall the nuts that we initially removed when taking it apart. One thing I do want to show you guys is that after installing two of the light bars inside the grill, the active shutters are still not being interfered with anything. I'm going to actually simulate them opening and closing, and that way you can see there's no binding. So this is how it closes, and when you open it, and they do not interfere with light bars. You still have kind of like half of a finger length in between. So let's go ahead and get this grill back in the truck, and we're going to wire this thing up. So now it's time for wiring. If you purchase a single function light bar, your light bar comes with two wires, a black and red. The black is the ground, and the red is the power source for the light. If you purchase a dual function light bar, you actually get three wires. You have the red, which is the power for the main white light. You get the black wire, which is the ground, and you have the blue wire, which is the amber DRL. Let me show you how I can use auxiliary switches to provide power for my light bars. Your Raptor has a total of 6 auxiliary switches, but switch number 1 is used to turn on the factory off-road fog light kits. So we only have switch number 2 to 6 to work with. There is 2 bundles of wires here on the side, and they're all color-coded. One bundle is wrapped in white tape, and one bundle is wrapped with red. The one we're going to want to use are the ones with a red tape on them. So those are going to be the live, connected, controlled by the switches. So let me go over the color code. So aux 1, that's going to be taken by the factory fog light kit, so you're not going to be able to connect to aux 1. Auxiliary 2, that's going to be the green wire with a brown stripe. Auxiliary 3, that's going to be the yellow wire. Auxiliary 4 is the brown wire. Auxiliary 5 is blue with orange stripe. And auxiliary 6 is going to be yellow with orange stripe. And also what you want to note is that every wire has a different amp rating. So you want to make sure to put the accessories that take up more amps, probably on 2 and 3, maybe 4. And the weaker ones, like the DRL function, you want to put them on a 5 amp fuse. So that's going to be 5 and 6. So the first light bar that I'm going to wire, it's going to be the amber DRL light bar. So it actually has 2 power sources. So I'm going to go ahead and put the main function of the light, which is the powerful white light, on switch number 2. And that's going to be the green wire with a brown tracer. Okay. And then the blue wire, which is the amber DRL, we're going to connect it to switch number 6 because that's the weakest one. It only has 5 amps on it, and that's the yellow wire with an orange tracer. Alright, so on the black wire I'm going to put an eyelid. I'm going to crimp it. Come here. And I'm going to actually use this factory grounding spot to ground the light bar. So I'm going to remove this grounding bolt, I'm going to slide it through the eyelid, and I'm going to reinstall. For the second light bar that we have, it only has 2 wires because it's only single function. So the red wire is the power, and the black wire is the ground. So I'm going to throw an eyelid on the black wire, and I'm going to ground it here. And the red wire, we're going to actually use switch number 3, which is the yellow, solid yellow wire. So I'm going to throw an eyelid on here. And I probably could have grounded both of these with one eyelid, but we'll do it again for practice. And the red wire of that light bar, we're going to connect that to the yellow cable. Alright, now that we have everything connected, let's go ahead and test the lights. So with one switch, we have the amber light bar, and with the second switch, we have the powerful white light. Oh, it looks amazing. I love it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to tune in and watch the night output video, and I know you guys are going to love the product.